All right, welcome back to Ignite Your Glow the Network, where we are bringing to you shared life experiences through biblical truths to be able to bring forth the healing journey that you are on into a perspective where you can see that you can be healing and carrying a God sized vision all at the same time. Hey, everybody, it's Jessica M. Harris, and we are back with a brand new episode. Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, it is officially 2026. And if you are big and bold in this season and you know that there is a greater vision that has been stored inside of you, then I need you to come out January the 17th. Meet me on Zoom at 11 a.m. Eastern Time because we are hosting what's going to be better known as a prayer journal soiree. That's right. We are strategically planning out the season that God has given unto us with the belief and the expectation that what He has spoken, that what He has said shall come to pass. Listen, if you're trying to figure out if this room is for you, let me give you some precepts. This room is made for the visionary. It's made for the woman who has been seen helping everybody else out in the background. But finally, she is recognizing the value and the confidence of which she needs to be able to carry and birth out the vision that's been placed inside of her. This is for the woman who is constantly cheering and rooting for everybody else in her circle, but has never truly taken the time to see that God has planted seeds within her and that in this season she will bear the fruit of the kingdom. This is for the woman who has so long allowed herself to be kept in the background, not because there wasn't potential, not because there wasn't vision, but because she simply wanted to allow others to go before her because she understood what they carry, but sometimes misinterpreted what it was that she was carrying in the process. This is that season for you to get up and to recognize that not only has God prepared a table for them, but He has also prepared a table for you too. Psalms 23:5 tells us that He prepares a table before you in the presence of your enemies, and that He anoints your head with oil, and that your cup is overflowing. This is your season. And if you have gotten to a point in your journey where you know that God is saying that something bigger is about to happen, then you want to be in the prayer journal because we're not just having a meetup. We're not just talking about vision boards, but we're setting the tone of the expectations that God is a promise keeping God and that His word is His word and His word shall come forth. So as we plan, as we write, as we get the vision written down in this season, we are setting ourselves up and positioning to not only receive instructions, but to also to be able to be in an atmosphere where we can execute the very instructions of which He has given us in the process. This is that season where we recognize the value that God has placed inside of us in the aspects of becoming the woman that we was already designed, handcrafted by the Lord to be able to become. This is that season. So if you are ready, go ahead and comment ready, depending on what platform you are on. And if you're catching this, listen on YouTube, make sure you are liking, sharing, and subscribing in the process. And go ahead and share this out with a friend. Because in this season of becoming, in this season of you moving into the woman, into the person that you're called to be, into the kingdom minded woman, the businesswoman, right? The ministry leader that the Lord has placed you in, and the nonprofit sector that the Lord has called you to, and the entrepreneurship journey that you are involved in right now. As you are walking that out in this season, you are going to realize that there was a reason as to why you had to plan out pieces in your past to be able to recognize that we didn't throw out the season, but that God was simply using what you've been through to be able to build within you the areas that He needed that would then in this future be able to sustain you, to grow you, and most of all, to develop you. This is a season where we look back to what it is that we've been through and we exonerate God and we exalt Him, that we exalt the Lord and that we trust in Him and that we believe in Him and that we acknowledge that He is with us regardless of what it looks like. That this is that season in you becoming, that you recognize what He's doing. This segment that the Lord has placed upon my heart isn't just about us walking into 2026, but it's acknowledging the process of what it took for you to become her. It's in this season that you're going to be able to really reflect back on what you've experienced, the hard seasons, the long seasons, those seasons of being patient, but how they've been able to develop you along the way. Because there's nothing wasted in the kingdom of God. There's nothing missing and there's nothing broken in the version of you that you're becoming. I need you to hear that. There's nothing missing and there's nothing broken in the version of you that you are becoming. Because in this season of healing, you will take on the new mantle. You will take on the new lens, the new framework. You will take on the new perspective of which He has been giving you. If you've heard the Lord speak to you, whether it be in your personal time in prayer or even through other leaders, Isaiah 43:18 through 19, what exactly is He telling you? He's telling you that former things have passed away. But do you not perceive it? For I am doing a new thing, and here is where it shall spring forth. This is the epitome of what God is doing within you. You are now transitioning from who you once were into who you are now becoming. And in this season of becoming, there is a different version of you that has to show up. In this season of becoming, there's a different version of you that has to come forward. In this season of becoming, there's a different version of you that has to be able to emerge outwardly what it is that God has given unto you. And that is going to come by the measure of faith that He has placed inside of your hands. Throughout the month of December, I talked about the push moment, the moment to push forward, right? And push stood for getting into position. It talked about uprooting the old, standing on His word, holding on to your faith in the process. And this year, I just believe by faith that we're going to be able to see this framework put to real life in our daily lives, because there's going to be times where you're going to have to push yourself through a situation that feels difficult. You're going to have to push past your regular temperaments of how you would expect things to take place and lean heavily on what God is doing instead. This is that season where you're going to have to allow the Lord's work to really be the evidence of who you are, not with you trying to toil, not with you trying to strive to show people what He's doing inside of you, but to simply just be who you're called to be. Because in that becoming, it becomes evident of what God is doing. The fruit begins to testify, the witnessing begins to take place, and your words, your actions begin to change, because your thought process is no longer trying to acclimate to this version of you, but it's now in that version of you. So, in this process today, as we're celebrating a brand new year, as we're celebrating a brand new month, as we're gearing up with an expectation that His word, right, the seeds of His promise will and shall come to pass, that we are walking in a place right now of positioning ourselves to be able to not only lead ourselves in the direction that God has called us to, but to be able also to position ourselves in the placements and in the communities and in the districts and in the regions and in the cities and in the counties, right? And in the neighborhoods and in the countries that God is speaking to you to be in this hour. Because there's something about proximity, of being close to one God and two, to the assignment that He has for you. There's something about being in proximity with those that you need to be in partnership with, in community with, because there's bigger things that He is building. Now, I don't want to speak too much right now about proximity, because we're going to be diving into that in our future engagement, January the 17th at 2026 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, in the prayer journal soiree. But I can't help but give you the understanding that us talking about position, us understanding proximity, gives room for us to walk out in the version of us that is needed in this season. We have to show up. We have to show up. We have to show up. It is expected of us to show up. There is an expectation that we may be placing on God, but God is also looking at us. But will you show up? Will you come forth, daughter? Will you come forth, son? Because listen, I'm going to be honest. Yes, this is definitely a kingdom woman ministry, a kingdom woman business, 100%. But I know there's men that be tapped in. So for the men that are listening, I need you to hear me. You have to show up as the creation of who God has created you to be. You have to show up in this season and take position as a man of God. You have to take position in your household. You have to take position with your family. You have to take position with the life that you desire. And if you're not married yet, then you have to get into that position now to be a husband, because you have to steward what that looks like. And that comes with maturity, and that also comes with growth. And the same applies to women. If you are a woman and your desire is to be a wife, you have to come in the expectation that you will be a wife. That means that there is a submission that you now have to have that is different than somebody who's not in that position. And that is a worldly perspective that people oftentimes put into arguments about the concept of submission. But there is a greater glory that God places on marriages, that when you get into proximity with God and relationship with God, you recognize the value of marriage. You recognize the value of being submissive. You recognize the value of being a wife. And not only are you a wife, but when you get married and when you say I do, but God already sees you as a wife because he sees the future version of you. And the reason why I'm going to say right now, to dispel any myths or any lies about the concept of submission, is because God entrusts his son with his daughter, because he trusts him that he can take care of the treasure of who he sees his daughter as. That's what God is giving me right now. That because he sees us women as his daughters and the man of God, that he is saying, hey, I am entrusting you with her. I am trusting that you will cover her. I am trusting that you can lead her. There is a positioning that has to happen. So when we look at the world arguing about positions and roles when it comes to the natures and things of that parts, when it comes to women and stuff, and I know this was not a part of my normal routine to talk about, but I felt like it was needing to be introduced in this season, because a lot of women are desiring marriage. A lot of men are on that aspect of marriage being more, what is it called? Coming to their mind, right? And starting to come to their mind more about what does it look like to be married? Should they get married? All these things, X, Y, and Z. There's a reason why God will have so many of his children in this season come into this period of preparation, that you will go into this period of consecration with God, that you will come into this period of truly allowing yourselves to be pruned for the journey that God is bringing you on, because there's something about what God wants to do with you for the relationship that he's bringing you into. And that is going to be one of those journeys where we die to ourselves. Because let's be honest, I am a single woman. And as a physically single woman, not in the sense of like, yes, God sees me as a wife, but physically, right, I am single in that sense. I have yet to meet my husband, but understanding that in that notion, that God is saying there are areas that I can operate in right now because of that. But when things come together, I have to understand that there's a role that's going to shift within me, that there's some things that are going to become aligned differently. It's not that anything's broken or anything's missing, but there's an alignment that comes forth with the opportunity that marriage brings. And I just want to point that out to you guys, because I believe the word of God is true, and the ways in which he calls us to submit ourselves unto our husbands, and how our husbands are to submit to God. I do believe that there's a leadership role that has to happen in order for the structure right? The dynamic of the family to move forth. And yes, I believe that God is doing a new thing, but I also believe that revisiting his word and being anchored in his word and having a relationship with God allows us to get the interpretation of his word from God so we can become who he needs us to be. Because in this Becoming Her series, it's not just about walking in the singleness, but it's about walking in what God is calling you to become and and who you have quote unquote aspired to be, right? And who you're evolving, because there's an evolution, right? Something changes. And because of that change, we now adapt to a different version of ourselves that is needed to be able to handle or to survive or to cohabitate, right, with another human being, in this case, our spouse. So I do believe that in this season, many of us are going through these changes ahead of time so that the Lord can do what he needs to do on both sides, on both ends, for the man and for the woman. So that when two come together, they're coming together before the Lord in the wholeness that he has for them. Now, I'm not here to argue. I'm simply here to bring forth the wisdom that God has been giving me regarding this season and the outlook of what's gonna take place or what could take place compared to what other people may have perceived based on their journeys. And because of that, I am excited that God is in the business of amplifying voices in this season. And he is in the business of sharing stories and sharing perspectives. So if you are a woman, a ministry leader, you are an entrepreneur, you may be in the nonprofit sector, right? You may be someone who's working in corporate America. If you believe that there is a story to share about your journey of healing, walking in faith with the Lord, and you're like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like my story right now just needs to be shared and I'm trying to figure out how. I would love for you to connect with me in the description box below. Fill out the request form so this way we can go ahead and determine if you would be a great match for our future episodes. Because I do believe that this platform isn't just for my voice alone, that the Ignite Your Glow Network isn't just about me, but it's about revisiting the plans that God has given me and allowing his plans to speak through me and to be unfolded in this season. That it's allowing the Lord to use me simply as a vessel that will allow others who know that it's on their heart to share to have room and to have space for them to do so according to his will, according to the will of God, period. So, I am Jessica M. Harris. I welcome you all to the Ignite Your Glow Network. Again, definitely follow, share, like, and subscribe. And check out our YouTube channel, Jessica M. Harris, for more details about this faith journey and so much more that's coming down the pipeline. Peace and blessings, and I will catch you on the next episode.